we're back. Today also in the paper was the reading and math scores, where Lee County had ranked either at, above, around the state level, but still 57% of 3rd through 10th graders reading at grade level seems to be rather low. That's an F, one looks at the scores. What kind of ideas might you have to try to address that? You've told a very passionate story about your own struggles growing up, but tell us a little bit about your ideas.
What I see in the classroom is the children read the books, but do they comprehend what they're reading? This is where they are failing. They do not comprehend what they're reading, so when they are asked questions about what they read, they don't have the comprehension to go back and reflect on what they read in the book. That's what we have to do. I remember when I was in school, and the class assignment was to remember the first 32 lines of the Odyssey. And because I was relegated to the back of the classroom, the teacher called on a few students to recite the first 32 lines. Nobody did. They didn't have it, so he started at the very front and went person by person to recite it. And as they recited it, I recited it. And by the time he came to me, I had it memorized, and I still remember it today. Then they went on and explained what it was that we learned, memorized. They explained what it meant. This is the one thing that we are missing. We're giving the children the chance to read books, but we don't discuss what they've read in depth so that the whole class and the students can benefit and reinforce what they've read in their memory. That's what we need to do, or that's one of the things that I would say is a change that needs to be made. Not just reading a book, but discussing what you have read in that book so that it becomes ingrained.
Something that struck me in that same article this morning is that I noticed that the charter schools had much higher scores on the FCAT in math and reading, and I wondered what's your stance on the charter schools?
I think charter schools are good. They keep us honest. But it's not an apple and apple correlation. Charter schools, parent has to agree to don't work so many hours in the school. We're getting the parent involved. Secondly, if a child becomes disruptive in a charter school, they can tell that child you must leave. Public schools, by law, must accept every student that walks through that door without question. There is the differences of your two schools.
Right.
But I still think that the charter schools are great because it gives us a benchmark to say we need to get there too. And it raises the bar for us.
So staying on FCAT, this is kind of a double question. One, do you believe that it creates an undue level of stress for our kids in the system? I've got one who just graduated high school, and every time she came to take her FCAT, I could visibly see the difference in my child. And I've got one who's in 2nd grade, so in a year and change, he'll be at the 3rd grade level taking that FCAT. And I see his friends, dealing with these tests that are put a ton of stress on them. The second part of that is FCAT the right test for us to be giving in the school systems?
To answer your question, yes, testing puts on stress, both on the teachers and on the students. FCAT goes away in 2014. Thank God. Mm-hmm. It will be, another test would be taken in. What they're talking about doing is doing testing when you come in, testing midterm, and exit testing. That should be in conjunction with learning the curriculum throughout the year and not just saying, okay, we're going to study for this test, Now we're going to study for this test, and now we're going to study for this test.
But now,
Testing
don't they do that already? I mean, when you enter school, you take kind of a standardized where are you as a student.
Correct.
Then I know high school, middle school, you do your midterms, and then you do your end of the year. So what difference is
In
that?
high schools, they do that, but in the grade schools,
Yep.
K through 8, it's not done that way. What we need to do is, it gives us a benchmark of where that student is in the school, and it gives us a benchmark where that class is amongst the peers and that grade level, so that we can see where it's going. And that's what a testing should be. Number one, how effectively is the teacher doing? How effectively are the students learning? But we shouldn't sit down and teach them a test and how to take a test. That's where the frustration comes back. Do you know we spend 60 days in practicing for testing and taking a test? That's ludicrous.
So FCAT goes away in 2014. A lot of the FCAT is tied to teacher pay and how they get graded. Are they going to change that on the legislative side? If you change the testing, they no longer have that merit system.
They are going to merit pay, and that's one thing that was voted on and passed. It hasn't been implemented yet. It's still in discussion. That's also going to probably come in around 2014 also. They have committees working on how they're going to implement merit pay. The teachers union has concerns. I think I have concerns on how merit pay is going to be implemented. Case in principle, when I worked for AT&T, I was in marketing. They decided to come out with merit pay. We would get a base salary, which was 60% of our salary, and 40% was on how well we accomplished our goals. So at the beginning of the year, you sat down and you wrote out your projection and your goals for the year. You turned them in. And they came in and say, okay, you're too low here, you got to do this. And we made our adjustments, came to our agreement. What I didn't like was went out, worked my tail off so I could go into the bonus. So then he said, we're coming up with a mid-year true-up to see how well you're doing. So I come in and say, well, you're doing real good, so we're going to raise your objectives. Oh, you're doing poorly, he's doing good, so we'll lower your objectives because we picked his up. And then they come in all of a sudden at the end of the year and have these humongous sales and get into the bonus. And I'm stuck now not getting a bonus. If it's going to be a merit pay system, it has to be one that is fair and equitable to everybody. That once you sign that document, it's not changed.